Yo YouTube, today's a story about my training history and my attachment to the bench press. Growing up, the bench press is seen in my culture as the ultimate test of your strength. The common bro adage, which used to be popular, how much you bench, was a joke I knew long before I started lifting. So it was only natural that as I began my lifting journey, I would pursue the bench press as an exercise I believed was necessary to reach my muscular and strength goals. As I began training, I took time to learn and practice technique, doing simple 3x10s and progressively overloading week to week. I eventually added more volume, thinking that more was automatically better, moving up from that to 5x10s. I kept this method going, and it took a while, and a few weeks of missing that 5-pound increase here and there, but I was eventually able to bench what I thought was 135 pounds for a 3x10 for the first time. I was very happy, needless to say, and I was very happy as it represented a milestone in my lifting journey. That was until I found out the bar was 10 pounds lighter than previously thought, and thus I tried yet again to reach that 135 for a 3x10, only to find, upon arriving there again, that the bar was even lighter than I expected, dropping yet another 10 pounds. There then came a point where I hit a wall, or so it seemed at the time on my bench press progress. Weeks came and went without me being able to increase the weight. In retrospect, I was simply impatient, not eating enough, and probably training too close to failure. This led me moving to sets of 5, mixed in with sets of 10 on a program of my own design, advised by my beat-up old powerlifter teacher, while still trying to hit my bodybuilding goals. It was at this point I was falling for the strength is 1-to-1 with muscle meme, and the body part I saw as my weak point, my chest, was supposedly being limited by my lack of bench press strength. That program got me beat up and unwell, both because it presented further so-called bench plateaus, at times both in the 5 and 10 rep range, and because my other lifts were getting heavier faster than my joints and connective tissues were ready for. Approaching recent times, I designed a 3 times per week bench program focusing on incorporating all sorts of methods and smart programming practices, but in the process I neglected my legs, which did not gain size but did gain strength over the course of the program, and my bench started to progress again and my chest started growing. By the end of the program, my goal of 2 plates did not materialize, and the sets became more and more grindy and unenjoyable. I would blame this upon external factors such as working out across multiple places and equipment types, time frames and uncalibrated weights, but in reality I was simply making non-optimal training decisions such as arm wrestling the weekend before my bench PR and not being patient enough. By the end of it, I was sick of it. I had enough of the bench press and have since taken a break from the whole exercise, doing only dips, machine chest presses, and push-ups. What I figure was my emotional attachment to the lift and the amount of weight I was lifting was limiting my hypertrophic gains, and thus focusing on an exercise for the same muscle group I wasn't attached to would allow me to make better gains. That being said, I feel like I'm ready to return to the bench press, but I'll be treating it differently. I'll not be treating it as a primary exercise for hypertrophy, but rather an exercise that I train for its own sake, with the side effect of hypertrophy. I do this now only because that I trust I won't compromise my former technique for the sake of my ego, and instead progress on the bench press, using much more clean and consistent technique, from which I'll be able to reap the benefits from. If you find yourself in a similar situation where your attachment to the lift or your mentality towards it may not be interested in creating the long-term goals that you want, but instead serving your short-term ego goals, I recommend taking a break from that lift and replacing it with something you aren't attached to. That way you can still train those muscles, but can take a breather from the exercise in question and come back to it when you're ready. To leave you off with a simple message, letting your ego get in the way can actually harm your long-term progress, and taking an approach of patience and consideration with each lift will lead to that progress in the long term. That's all for now. Take care, train hard, and have a great day.